deserves to be worshipped except for one supreme being alone, Allah the Almighty. And I bear witness that Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is his messenger, our prophet, sent to all of humanity. We ask Allah's exhortations and blessings upon our leader and teacher, Muhammad the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, upon his companions, the believers, the righteous people all over the world. Ameen. We say to you, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وسلم. We have in our Quran فيها كتب كريمة. In the Quran are all of the previous scriptures made upright. The scriptures before the Quran that came to the prophets of God, Moses, Jesus, Abraham, etc. All of those scriptures unchanged was the word of Allah in that day and time. But we know the other faith traditions will tell you that they have lost verses of their scriptures. They have lost entire chapters of their scriptures. Therefore, the Quran had to come as the final completion and the progression of religion. So we have in the Quran where it says, يُسَبِّحُ لِلَّهِ مَا فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَمَا فِي الْأَرْضِ الْمَلَكِ الْقُدُّسُ الْعَزِيزُ الْحَكِيمُ. That whatever is in the universe, in the skies, gives its praises to the sovereign, to the holy, to the mighty, to the wise. One supreme being. It began with the teaching of the worship of one God, and so as in the end with Muhammad, who was the leader of the modern world, Muhammad the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we come back to the pure worship of one God. No racism can be introduced into the religion of Islam. You can't have a black God with skin like me. You can't have a Caucasian God. You can't have a Chinese God. You can't have a German God. It didn't start out as such, and it's not going to end as such. هو الذي بعث أمين رسولا منهم يتلو عليهم آياته. And he it is, one God, one alone, who raised up among the Ummiyina, meaning the people of common sense, meaning the people of motherwit. And it is common sense and motherwit that established all these colleges and universities that you see now. We didn't start out with colleges and universities. We started out with common sense. So it says that he raised up a messenger from among the people of common sense. يَتْلُو عَلَيْهِمْ آيَاتِهِ. And Muhammad is the one who recites the messages of Allah. يُزَكِّيهِمْ. And he purifies them. وَيُعَلِّمُهُمُ الْكِتَابَ. And he teaches the book. And the wisdom. وَإِنْ كَانُوا. Even although مِنْ قَبْلُ. Before this time. لَفِي ضَلَالٍ مُبِينٍ. They were in great manifest error. This is the Quran describing the condition of the people, the psychological condition, the social condition, the cultural condition was the supreme ignorance. That's what Muhammad the Prophet found himself as a people and as a culture. The Quran is a book of wisdom and insight. And I would like to share from you another verse well, two verses. The Quran says, "Al-Hakum wa-Takathur, hatta zurtum al-Maqabir." Says, translated, that there are many people that is diverted by the accumulation of material things. Hatta zurtum al-Maqabir, until they visit the grave. I want to say something to many of you who may not realize this. All of us, we couldn't get in this world unless we came by way of an umbilical cord. When we were in our mother's wombs, we were guaranteed life by the umbilical cord. That same cord, if the baby comes into this world wrongly, the same cord that guarantees the baby life can choke the life out of that baby. The same one cord. So this Al-Hakum wa-Takathur, Allah is saying to us in the Quran, it's the same thing. These possessions that we have, this wealth that we are seeking, that we're going after, Allah Himself has intended that we have that. The great sums of wealth, Allah gave that to the human being. The homes, Allah intends for you to be comfortable. The cars, Allah intends for you to be comfortable. The clothing, Allah intends for you to have fine dress, fine clothing. You see? These things God has intended. But because of disrespect and because of the influence of Satan, the very thing that Allah intends for us to have, these material comforts, have now, for too many people, have imprisoned them. They can't enjoy anymore what God has intended for them to have. And you know, the smallest baby, you can give him food, and you don't have to tell a young child when to stop eating. The young child automatically knows when to stop eating. It's a safety mechanism that Allah placed in the human being. But when we come into an aberrant culture, a degenerate culture, then we lose the self-control that we came into the world with. And this is what the Quran has given us great advice for. Al-Hakum wa-Takathur. And those who have been diverted by the material gain, meaning what? That these people, without the guidance of God, without the help of His prophets and messengers, peace be on all of them, and when I meant the last, their whole life is violated by the very things that they own. We have to think of this. This is the Quran. They have become slaves to their possessions. We are supposed to be ibadillah, the servants of Allah. All of us were the servants of Allah. But we have too many people who have become victims of material greed, and they have the false life of material thinking. I said the false life. There's nothing wrong with material plenty. Nothing wrong with it. As I told you, nothing wrong with money, wealth, power. Nothing wrong with it. It's the false life associated with the wealth. The false life that is associated with power. That's where the problem is. And this is where the Quran is coming to give us good advice to help us in these situations. You know, in the Quran there's a simple phrase that says, Sami'na wa ata'na. We hear and we obey. These are statements in the Quran. And you know, you have your ear here and you have your eye. Most of us have no idea that we didn't see first. Most of us think we saw first. No human being comes in this world with the ability to focus. You don't have that. The Quran says, Allahu as-Sami' wal-Basir. That Allah is the hearing and the seeing. This is the Quran. You know what that is? It's not just Allah describing to us who He is. Allah is telling you what you have first. The first thing you have is hearing. Then you have the ability to see. No human being comes into the world with the ability to focus. Even though you see a small child, If the parents move back and forth, you see the child's head moving like this. You think the child is focusing. The child is not focusing. He can't focus. But the child's hearing is extremely accurate. So Allah has given us something very, very powerful in our religion, and that's this, young men. Before you call a prayer, you see the man, he did his thing. He put his hands to his ear. He didn't put his hands to his eye. He put his hand to his ear. Because it is your ear, your inner ear, that gives you your position in reality. You'll know you're sitting because of your inner ear. You'll know if you're standing because of your inner ear. If you get an infection in your inner ear, your reality becomes altered. And if you try to walk with an inner ear infection, you will stumble as though you were intoxicated by alcohol or reefer. I'm giving you scientific facts. I'm sharing with you the miracle of Islam. What is the miracle of Islam? Why did it have to come after Jesus, after Moses? Why did the Quran have to come after the Bible and Torah? I'm giving you the insights now. Why it had to come afterward. The human being is a creature much more than his mustache. The human being is much more than his muscles. The human being is much more than his legs. The human being is the intellect. And the enlightened intellect is the destiny for humanity. That's why we have in our Quran, it says, "Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaqa, khalaqa al-insana min 'alaq." Read with the name of your Lord who created man from a clot. And Allah is letting us know the clot is your beginning, but that's not your destiny. Your destiny is an educated mind. This is the destiny of man. Not your mustache, not your muscles. That doesn't make you, that's not your identity. Your identity, Allah has made it hidden. Your identity, you don't even see it. You don't even see yourself. Allah has hidden you from yourself because yourself is the most valuable treasure that you have. Don't be deceived, as I said, thinking the beard is you, or the mustache is you, or the muscle is you, or this head is you. This is not you. This is merely the container that you occupy. And if you see yourself as the beard, as the mustache, then you will be used by people who see themselves as minds. And they will be operating your flesh body as a mind because you have failed to accept your identity as an abstract being, the special creation that Allah has made. Allah Akbar. Yes. So Allah, He speaks to His creation that belongs to Him. You belong to Allah. You don't belong to your mother and father. They don't own you. They just were a conduit of which you and I came through, our parents. But Allah is our owner. And Malik, the owner, the possessor. And Allah speaks to everything that is under His will. And He told those things in material creation in the Quran, come willingly or unwillingly. And His creation replied, we come to you willingly. And Allah lets us know that we have to return to the original state that He created this world in. Not just me. The whole matter, dirt, water, galaxies, all of these things obey God. No disobedience at all. Complete obedience to God. And I'm going to say this to you as I sit down. Any man who smokes a cigarette, drinks wine, shoots heroin and cocaine, that body that you have, even though you are using it against His will, that body is obedient to God still. And what I mean is this: the body obeys God, and it will even obey you if you command it to do wrong. Because the body does not know how to do anything except to obey. So we have to get the human mind to the point where the mind will obey God as the flesh obeys the mind. Lord God. I know that's a little heavy for some people, but we need that knowledge. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وسلم. عن أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه, from a saying of Abu Hurairah, says أن رجلا قال للنبي صلى الله عليه وسلم أوصني, says that a man, he came to Muhammad the Prophet and he asked the Prophet, Awsini, give me advice. Call. The Prophet said, La taghdab, do not become angry. Faraddada mirara, then the man, he repeated again, Awsini, and the Prophet said, Call. La taghdab. Now, you may be wondering, why am I referring to this particular hadith? You know, we have the story of Abu Lahab in the Quran. That's chapter 111. And we have the story of Abu Jahl. These are two figures in Islamic history. And I want to read this to you. It says, Tabbat yada Abi Lahab wa tab. Says, and perished the two hands of Abu Lahab. Ma aghna anhu maluhu wa ma kasab. And his wealth that he got will not be benefiting him. Whatever he earned. Sayasla nara dhata lahab. He will be entering a fire that possesses flame. وَامْرَأَتَهُ حَمَّلَهَا الْحَطَبَ, and his wife will be carrying firewood. This is a story in the Quran, as I said, chapter 111. And these are two men. One was the uncle of the Prophet, both. I had to check with my good friends that had the Islamic study class. I go